This program is brought to you by Mass Marketing, fueling the future of L&D.
In L&D, the challenge isn't knowing that learning needs to happen in the workflow, it's making it happen at scale. Many solutions leave a gap between knowing the problem, intervening, coaching and following up, especially in fast-moving environments like sales. Agentic AI has the potential to help close that gap by anticipating needs and giving more of a thorough follow-up after the initial learning moment. And this is the promise behind Imparta's latest release, the fully agentic iCoach AI sales enablement platform, which has 20 specialized AI agents to deliver personalized, proactive sales enablement at an enterprise scale. Joining me to discuss the launch and its implications is Imparta's founder and CEO, Richard Barkey. Richard, great to have you back on Learning News. A very warm welcome to you.
Always a pleasure.
What does the shift to a fully agentic system actually mean compared to previous approaches?
So AI, when it's used properly, can be very powerful, even in its kind of original pre-agentic form, which is essentially a chatbot. And when you feed that chatbot with a deep understanding of sales best practice and company information, it can be really effective in coaching and in delivering insight and helping salespeople to improve. Where I think the agentic experience for the user is very different is in a couple of ways. So the first thing is it's much better at using tools. So the chatbot version will go and find information that seems relevant to the conversation that you're having right now and bring that into the AI stream so that the AI can be more supportive and more insightful. The agentic version can actually plan that. It can say, right, we're doing a role play. I know that you're in this role, focused on this particular product and market, and I'm now going to go and find the information in my database, if you like, that will help me to deliver that role play in the best possible way. So it creates an experience that's much more focused and much more rich and detailed, I think, really, and kind of nuanced. The second thing it does is it switches seamlessly. There's a thing called an orchestrator that works out what agent you need to help you right now. So it switches seamlessly between those 20. There's actually now 21 because we've added a medpick agent as well to help you do deal qualification. And it will find the right agent for the job. So if you are wanting to do some creativity, that's a different type of activity to synthesizing a deal strategy, let's say. So it will find the right tool for the job and really guide people in the right direction. And then the third thing is it's proactive. So rather than requiring the user to go in, find the AI, type in, hello, I'm Richard, I'm working on a deal, can you help me? The AI will actually reach out to you. It can monitor information in the background. If it's connected into your CRM, it can look at that. It can look at your diary and see that you have an important call coming up and send you an email or a Slack message or a WhatsApp that goes, hey, you got this coming up. Do you want to chat? Click here to carry on. So if you have a coaching session with the AI, for example, it might go, okay, do you want to role play that before you have this call for real? It will simulate that real customer and do a very good job of preparing you for that call, give you e-learning to do. And then it might follow up with you an hour before the actual call and say, are you feeling comfortable here? Anything you want to talk about before you do it for real? And then it might even follow up afterwards. So it becomes a much more personalized, much more proactive support, like a good manager, basically.
Could we drill into that a little bit more on the anticipation and how it proactively supports sales teams? Can you walk us through that in a bit more detail, Richard?
There's a lot of talk about agentic AI and there's a lot of mystique around it. Fundamentally, it's still basically AI that you have a conversation going to the large language model and it sends something back. The difference is how that's all wired together. So you might have, one part of the AI planning what it's going to do to support the salesperson, and then it runs that execution and then tries, sees if it's worked, tries again if not, and if it has, it comes back to the user. So it's about kind of linking up these agents, if you like, these little bits of AI that have a specific job. So one of those agents might be something that scans CRM data and either on a constant basis looks for something that changes or just checks in once a day to see how things are looking. And if it sees that your completion rate has dropped or your pipeline's dropped or you've got a big opportunity that's just shifted, it might use that as a trigger to get in touch and say, looks like there's something to talk about here. Equally, it can look at your skills data, and we now correlate AI-based assessments using role plays or real calls with the manager and the individual. So the 180 degree now has a third triangulation point, if you like, using AI to assess skills. And it might suggest, if it sees that there's one skill that's too low, some e-learning for you to do, or a practice, or somebody else on your team potentially who's very good at this who might be able to help you. So it becomes, again, more personalized and more proactive.
Now, many are struggling with, if we can call them, islands of AI in their tech stack. Take us through how iCoach AI works with other systems and why this is important and your approach here.
Well, I think there's still kind of two groups of organizations out there, I think it's fair to say. The first group is still very, very worried about AI. It's seen as a security risk, as an issue, and the adoption of new AI tools is very much guarded by the IT and info security teams, and it's very hard to get a new thing in. I don't think that's going to last for very long. That segment is shrinking because people realize that when used well, AI is super powerful. You've got to be careful, and maybe we talk about that in a moment. There are some risks here. But the other type of user that I come across, especially at enterprise scale, is the organization that now has 20 different AIs, right? Some of them are built into Salesforce or into Cornerstone or whatever. And there are point solutions they've brought in as well. So a role play thing, a coaching thing over here. And they all talk about, we have native integrations into your tech stack. So you'll have, that role play device or platform will have its own platform, and it might have an app inside Salesforce and an app inside Gong or whatever it is. That sounds great, except when you've got 20 of those, the seller is confronted by the need to find the right app inside Salesforce to do the task they want to do. So it's very fragmented from the user's point of view, and that friction leads to lack of use, basically. But it's also fragmented at the back end. So they all have their own data silos, but they're not connected in a consistent way into the company's data. So to do this well, you don't just want to be able to talk about sales and negotiation and draw on all that research and best practice. You want to be able to put that in the context of this particular product or service in this particular customer group with this persona, which is all the data the company has. So there's fragmentation on the front end and fragmentation on the back end. Now, Agentic AI gives us a solution to that, which is what's known as orchestration. So essentially what we can do now is you can have a single point of entry for AI anywhere in the tech stack, and that's often not actually embedded into each part of the tech stack, but sort of floats above it using a tool like WalkMe, for example. That single interface then talks to an orchestration layer that does that job of saying, okay, who is the best agent, which is the best agent to deal with this request right now? If it's coaching or, sales insight, it might be the Imparta one. If it's getting company data out of the data store, it might be Seismic. Or if it's something from the CRM, it might be a Salesforce agent. So the orchestrator can create a seamless experience for the user while choosing multi-vendor agents behind the scenes. And we can be the orchestrator, or we can provide what are known as headless agents, which sounds very weird, but it just means without the interface, basically, that plug into an existing orchestration architecture. So we're working with enterprise organizations, and by that I mean, anybody from 100 to 500 to 25,000 salespeople is what we cover. And especially at the higher end, people need that level of technical sophistication to be able to create not just something that's really good for sales training, but something that's good for revenue enablement as a whole.
I don't know if it's too new for your own product yet, but What measurable impact can customers expect in terms of sales performance or commercial results? I know you've had iCoach AI for a while, but the agentic version, what are you justifying that for? What are you saying to your customers, and what can they expect?
If I look first of all at customer perceptions or user perceptions, we're certainly seeing between 95 and 100% of people who use the AI, the agentic AI, say that they found it extremely valuable and that they would want to keep using it. And in fact, we actually have an issue with the level of usage, because the costs we provided before for compute costs were on the basis of old usage patterns. And while they were very good, the usage, because it's so much more effective, the usage of agentic AI is actually much, much higher, which is a nice problem to have, right? But we're trying to work out how to manage that, in fact. In terms of commercial impact, it's extremely high. I mean, we don't have yet a year's worth of data, because it's still relatively early with the agentic product. But what I can say is that where these tools are being used around deal coaching, for example, it can make a significant difference. So we have evidence, for example, of $2 million, I think it was, a year contract that was won that the individual didn't think they would have won without AI. And overall, we're seeing an improvement in win rate, an improvement in deal size, and even an improvement in deal velocity relative to control groups who are not getting the learning and getting the AI. It's harder for us to separate out the impact of the learning and the learning of the AI, because we generally do both together now, right? But certainly the evidence is there. And our dashboards, which are built in a way that allows us to customize them easily, and that from about a month's time, we'll have the AI layer on top of that, providing the user with a synthesis of what's in the dashboards as well as the dashboard itself. Those track engagement, they track knowledge and skill, but they also track business impact. So we're able to demonstrate the ROI pretty clearly.
There's some research that's been circulating that potentially shows that people who use AI first might not be using their cognitive powers correctly and actually showing less neural activity.
That's correct. There are two studies at the moment that are relatively small, but I think they're getting a lot of attention because intuitively it's right. The first was from MIT, and they studied 50-odd students who were using AI to answer questions, and some who, a proportion of them were and a proportion were not. And what they found was that for those who used AI first, there was a 47%, I think it was, reduction in neural activity, and they couldn't remember what they'd written a few minutes later. On the other hand, the people who thought about the answer first, then used AI to refine it, did much better. There was another study around endoscopy, and people who were very good surgeons or doctors who were doing endoscopy, those who used AI and then stopped using AI became 6 to 7% worse at their task than before they used AI. So this is what we're starting to call in the industry cognitive offloading. It's delegating the thinking process to the AI. And I personally think this is a real issue, and it's going to become something that we have to talk about a lot. The issue is AI can replace you, but I think it's much more powerful, especially in B2B sales, when it's enhancing skills. But if actually it has the opposite effect, clearly that's not positive. The answer, I think, is not telling people the answer every time. So if you go to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, the default behavior is just to give you the answer. Our system doesn't do that. It uses its insight. If somebody asks for a direct question, it will give them the answer. Asks a direct question, it will give them the answer. But what it's trying to do is to help the user to think for themselves. And that's why coaching is so important in the context of AI, because a good coach, it's not all about the coach's experience. It's about empowering the coachee to think things through for themselves. So as a coach, you ask insightful questions based on the massive knowledge you have, but in a way that helps those neural connections, if you like, to form in the brain of the coachee. So I think it's very important that AI is used to coach properly, and most people don't really understand what coaching is. They think it's feedback or telling people what to do. It's not. It's about empowering them to think and to get better at that neural process rather than worse. So I think this is something that we feel confident that the right use of AI can help with, but it's something we as a society need to think about quite hard.
Thank you, Richard. What's next on the development roadmap? Where do you see the biggest opportunities for agentic AI and sales enablement going forward?
The first thing to say is I think we have reached a point with the technology here, with the agentic structure, that it's going to be stable for a little bit. I mean, things are moving incredibly fast in this industry, but I do believe that the agentic framework is sufficiently powerful that it will stand us in good stead for the next couple of years at least. Models, the large language models behind it will improve, tools will refine, and I have no doubt that in a couple of years' time there'll be a new paradigm. But I think for now we're good with agentic. What we're going to be doing over that period is a few things. So adding new specialist agents, new specialist tools like connectors into different types of data. As I said, in terms of agents, we've just added a MedPick agent. We have other things in the pipeline, including a live deal analysis agent that will sit on a Teams call or a Zoom call or a WebEx call with you and provide you with live insight into what's going on in that customer, and talk to you through a direct message and go, maybe you should ask this question, which is very exciting. And there's a whole bunch of innovations like that are coming. And then I think it's about understanding the human aspect. So AI agents do not exist in a vacuum, and the best way to think about this is a hybrid between the human agents, so managers, coaches, champions, trainers, consultants, all of those people who play a part in driving performance improvement in a sales team, working in tandem with AI agents. So the AI agents can play a big role with their individual users, but you can't cut the humans out. So we're building an AI agent that helps the manager to be kept in the loop with what their teams are doing, for example. So thinking about things in this hybrid AI and human way, I think, is very much where a lot of our work's going to be over the next few months.
Richard, thank you very much for joining us this morning. This launch of a fully agentic iCoach AI is giving a big boost to how sales enablement is delivered at scale, not just responding to needs, but anticipating them too. And you're already seeing some very strong impact results. That's great to see. I will watch very closely to see how enterprises put it into work in the months ahead. Richard Barkey, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob.
This programme is brought to you by Mass Marketing, fueling the future of L&D.